Hello. As we tend to do journeys into antiquity and we are fascinated by numbers, today we are going to speak about perfect numbers. Nicomachus, the mathematician, Greek mathematician, he said that perfect numbers are not common, but most of the other numbers are just ugly. I'm going to sit here with the fantastic Professor Misha and speak with him about perfect numbers. There is an incredible journey that was made, took, let's say, 2 millenniums from Euclid to Euler. And this is where Euler managed to prove that every even number is of the form that Euclid suggested. Let's go to Professor Misha.
Okay, the perfect numbers played very important role in the ancient Greek mathematics, because Greeks were looking at mathematics not only, or maybe not even primarily, as a tool of solving some practical things, but as the beauty of the creation, beauty of the world.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yes. So it reminds me a verse in the Psalms that my purpose in life is to appreciate, to see, to meditate over the beauty of the creation. So mathematics can be seen as the appreciation of the Creator's creation. Okay?
It's pretty much a language of God.
Language of God. More than that, actually, and it's interesting. I will research a little bit more about it, and I'm not by any means a specialist of the ancient Greek language, but I was looking at these things, and the idea of the perfect numbers, which is teleos, is very similar of the also other Greek name was teleo, which is from which the word teleology is derived. Teleology is the science of the purposefulness of the creation, what in Hebrew would be tachlit. So what is the purpose of things why we do that? So in a way, I would imagine that the ancient Greeks saw it not only like a perfect numbers and beautiful numbers, but the numbers who tell us some story about the creation. Also in the scriptures, we are kind of requested, we said like, be perfect as our Father in heaven is perfect. So basically, there is a connection with them.
Ani kadosh velachem kadoshim tiyu. But this is holy, but it is perfection as well. Now, it's very important, by the way, to explain to whoever wants to know what are perfect numbers. Perfect numbers are numbers which are equal to their divisor, proper divisors. The first one is 6. 1 plus 2 plus 3, which is beautiful, by the way. It's consecutive from 1
yes.
to 2 to 3. The second one is 28. The third one is going to be 496. And there are only 51 perfect numbers that we know, which is unbelievable. With all the computation power that we got, with so many discoveries, with so many branches of mathematics. Well, you know, there's so many discoveries, and yet we know only 51, which is a drop of a drop of a drop of a drop in the ocean.
Yes, and it's interesting when Nicomachus said that only 51 numbers are beautiful, and,
said,
and the trillions and quadrillions are ugly.
Are just not as beautiful, you know. They are not the beauty queens.
Yes.
This is remarkable. So they are very rare. Then, do you have any assumption? I mean, because why are they so rare? Perfect numbers. I know we have to actually say that Euclid proposed the algorithm, if you want to call it this way. He said that start with a unit, which means 1. That's how the Greeks used to call it 1. And then add doubles. Once you reach a prime number, multiply it by the last number of the series, and then you get yourself a perfect number. So, and this is pretty much related to Mersenne primes. So we would like to believe, as often happens in mathematics, but that's not a proof, that we can find a lot of them, and yet we don't.
Yes, and the chances are, if we have the more computational powers, which
yes.
we're probably going to, if the past is a prediction of the future, we'll get more computational powers, and so I would imagine there will be more than 51. And these numbers are very important and very rare. And probably if we limit ourselves with the first thousands of the natural numbers, we would have only 3 perfect numbers, as you said, number 6, number 28, and number 496.
And it goes to 8,000 something.
And 8,132 or something like that. And what we need to say about these numbers. They've been, even from the ancient times, they've been, people were trying to, the Pythagoreans and others, they were trying to find the connection between the perfect numbers and something what is holy for people. So 6 was connected with the 6 days of the creation. Well, some people say six parts of Mishnah.
Mishnayot, yeah.
Mishnayot. But also, well, six obviously in the ancient and all ancient quantitative systems were part, because 6 is part of 12, 6 is part of 360, etc., etc. So it's kind of divisor, which is very much part of the everything else in the, say, Babylonian and Sumerian mathematics. Then we go to the number 28. Number 28 is a very interesting number again. Many people kind of connect it with the lunar months, because it's closest kind of.
28. 6 and 28, by the way, it's incredible. 6 days of creation, and then the 28.
28 of the month, so the week and the month. And in fact, some people were saying that the people were venerating week as a 7 days week in the tradition, apart from the biblical tradition, because it's the closest number to the phases of the moon, because the moon, of course, has 4 phases, and just less than 7.5, so it's close to 7, etc., etc. So you're absolutely right. 20 and 28 would be the close to these things. Talking to the Hebrew letters and gematrias, which we started to mention with the number pi, the 400. And even 28 actually, very important gematria is a koch.
Koch, yeah, Rabbi told me. Yeah.
Yes, koch. Koch is strength.
Power. Yeah.
It's power, but not only it is a power as itself. Koch is a part of the word chokhmah, which is wisdom, because about chokhmah, people saying what is chokhmah, what is wisdom. It's the power to ask questions. Koch ma is what. So kind of it's very, very important thing. Kind of we're getting into wisdom. But with the number 496, we even have much more choice. It's a big number, more probability kind of to find interesting numbers. So one of the gematriot, which have
numerology for anyone who doesn't know.
Yes, gematriot, numerology. Sorry, we kind of continuing from the previous
We always talk about this anyway.
So we talk about this.
We're interested in that aspect.
So it's worthwhile to remind everybody. So the numerology of 496 is one of kind of very interesting and a big one. Is Malchut, which is a kingdom, and kingdom plays huge
role in Kabbalah.
In Kabbalah, but generally speaking, in the Hebrew Bible, in the Christian Bible, it really talks about the kingdom of God in the universe, and also Malchut in Kabbalah. It's kind of the 10th Sphera. It's Sphera of our world. It's associated with David, who was Melech, who was king, and so it's interesting that this kind of very important notion into all the biblical and Kabbalistic theology has gematria, has numerology of the perfect number. Then there is another perfect number which is very interesting, is the Leviathan. Leviathan in English, which is a very important thing, because Leviathan is symbolizing chaos in a kind of biblical and Kabbalistic approach. Leviathan symbolizes chaos, and in order to limit chaos, we need perfect
Order.
number.
Yes.
We need the order.
Yes.
So, and it's interesting that kind of Malchut, the kingdom, and the chaos, or stopping the chaos, have the perfect numbers together. And another very interesting idea of this is that the perfect numbers, or at least this particular perfect number, 496, is the sum not only of its own divisors, but of the numbers between 1 and 31. 31 obviously is 2 in the power 5 minus 1.
Okay.
And kind of Greeks also, and people after Greek mathematicians like to build these triangles, this 1, 2, 3, etc., and kind of the foundation is 31. And there is a interesting.
It's a Mersenne prime.
Yes.
Just to make
yes, and the formula, and that's what very very interesting there is that there is a connection. Maybe there are more connections, but what I found with the connection between the perfect numbers and number pi via the Bible.
Okay, tell me
and
please.
via Gematria. So there is a verse, there is a pasuk in the Bible in Exodus, Exodus 6:3, which is the second pasuk of Parsha Vayera, where God says that I revealed myself to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob as God Almighty. But with my tetragrammaton, my most important name, I haven't revealed to them. But if we go through the first part of this pasuk, through this verse, we have three. God revealed himself to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, three of them. Then God, Kel, Aleph Lamed, is 31. And actually, when he says, I revealed to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, it's also Aleph Lamed with a different
L, 2 and M.
So L is both
God, but also 2. In Hebrew.
So, and also 3 times it says to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, but didn't reveal God as God Almighty, which is again a very very important God's name. Which is, we're not supposed to pronounce it, so it says Shakai, so Shin, Dalet, Yud, and Gematria, the numerology of that name, is 314.
Sounds familiar.
So sounds very familiar, so it's 3, 31, 314. At that time, of course, there was no decimal point, so, but obviously the decimal system was already created a long time before. But and we have in the Bible, all these things came from decimal system, right? It's like 25,600, etc. When the Bible goes through the number of people in different camps, etc., it calculates it in the decimal
numbers.
System. In decimal systems, not in the 16 based on 60 like in Mesopotamia, not like in French, 90, 4 times 20 and 10, but in kind of, as most languages now, in decimal way. So basically 3, 31, and 314, which would have been a very good approximation for that time, is already seen in the Bible. Why this pasuk this verse is connected with pi, I don't know. It would be interesting to see.
And perfect number is because of the sum of all the numbers from 1 to 31.
Yes, and the connection is that this number 31, which is God, which is Kel, the most kind of basic name of God, is also 31, and the kind of this triangle with 31, the addition between 1 and 31, gives us the perfect number of 496, which is very interesting.
This is beautiful. I would like to go back to Euclid, as I mentioned him before. He wrote the most important book in mathematics, the foundation for everything, which is the Elements, 13 books. 3 out of the 13 were about number theory. Now, usually people speak about the elements; they think about it as books of geometry. So we do have number theory. The great proof about the infinite nature of primes is there. Also, there are logarithm for perfect numbers. Now, Euclid showed us that he could how you can produce perfect numbers, and they are even numbers. Through the ages, many mathematicians try to prove that every even number is of the form that Euclid showed us. The man we needed to actually give us the proof was Leonhard Euler. As often as it happens, it took almost 2,000 years between the two, I think 2,000 years, so they call it the Euclid-Euler theorem, I believe. Yes, so I think it's fascinating. Now, that of course, unless you have to say something about it, I would like to lead to another question.
Okay.
Odd numbers, odd perfect numbers. We don't know about their existence, but there is no one who can tell us that they don't exist simply because we don't know. I've seen a lot of criteria for their existence. People know that they should have certain criteria, and it seems that there is so much criteria that it's very unlikely that they will exist, because they have to go through so many different obstacles in order to exist, mathematically speaking. What do you think about it? I mean, I don't know. It's a mystery. There's still a lot of mystery in mathematics, in number theory, but with perfect numbers as well. We don't know if they're infinite. We don't know, again, more than 51. We don't know if there is any odd number which is perfect.
Well, again, commenting on what you said about the 2,000 years between Euclides and Euler. I was thinking about it, even kind of meditating about it in the last few days. In fact, and would be very interesting actually for us to look at the times of the Dark Ages, of the medieval times, and hopefully we'll do, with God's help, something about it as well. Although it was 2,000 years, it was not kind of 2,000 years of kind of constant progress. Even in Hellenistic times, the things which were achieved in the 3rd century before Common Era, even in the Hellenistic times, the kind of the progress was slowing down. There was kind of tremendous development of Greek knowledge around the time of Alexander the Great, around the time when basically, in my humble opinion, when Greek knowledge, which were already quite huge through Pythagoras, through Socrates, through Plato, through Aristotle, met all this Middle Eastern thing, Egypt, Babylonian, and when they came together, it produced a huge kind of explosion of knowledge, and Euclides and the people around his time were part of it. But especially when Greek time were changed for the Byzantium, for the Middle Ages, the mathematics did not progress so fast. So in fact, and when we were talking about the last theorem or great theorem of Fermat, we can see Fermat were building directly on the ancient Greeks.
Yes.
And so almost like 1500, maybe more, maybe slightly less, were completely like lost period. In fact, mathematics picked up later than some other fields, than architecture or poetry, or because from the point of view of the arts, it already reached fantastic heights with Michelangelo, with Leonardo da Vinci, with Raphael. Mathematics waited another century or two to Fermat, Descartes, Blaise Pascal, and of course Euler. Euler was the person, in a way, one of the last one, if not the last one, who managed to take everything what was done before him and to tie all this kind of unfinished things, which was unbelievable.
It's fantastic way to explain it, to show it exactly. That's what Euler was. He knew everything about mathematics and he used it.
And in fact, it's interesting that he lived after other giants of mathematics and physics like Leibniz and Newton, and other French ones before, which we mentioned. But he managed to take everything from the ancient time and the kind of new time, 17th, 18th century, and really tie all the knots, which prepared us to great explosion of mathematics in the 19th, 20th century and now, which is completely different chapter, which hopefully will also.
I really hope that we'll do it. You know that actually I read somewhere that he was not that interested in number theory at the beginning because he was very much a product of his time, and calculus was the hottest thing in the market, and of course he wrote so much about it and developed it. But it was Goldbach, Christian Goldbach,
Right.
his very good colleague, that started asking him questions, and Euler got very excited about it. So this is where I think he started getting deeper into number theory, which is for me again the favorite subject that I know about at this stage of my development. But I just love what he did with Euclid and perfect numbers. And further other things, he contributed to analysis as well. What he did with what was it? I believe 1 second. It was with with the natural logarithm.
Of course,
Yeah.
that's who has his name. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, absolutely. Well, in fact, he was the person who put in one equation all the
exactly.
foundations of mathematics, right?
The
0
identity,
and 1
yeah.
and pi and the
This is fantastic. We need to speak about
Yes.
Euler in
Separately.
much depth, more depth, later.
Yes. So that's very interesting about the odd and even numbers. That's again very interesting thing. And again, whether you kind of look through things in more mystical way,
Odd perfect numbers.
odd perfect numbers,
Yes.
yes. More mystical
Mm-hmm.
way or less mystical way. In some ways, it's actually fair because prime numbers were all odd, apart from two,
But two, yeah.
and so even numbers need to have to be compensated.
Yeah.
It's interesting enough, and again, I don't know my scientific background, my mathematical background kind of cries against it. But when you, for example, reading all the Jewish commentaries, they treat letters
Mm-hmm.
as beings. So you know this famous story when all letters were complaining to God
I've heard stories like that.
that Y bet was chosen as the first letter of the alphabet, and there's a huge long story about God explains to them why bet, why this one's not. So basically, if we look at even numbers and odd numbers as
Entities.
as the kind of things which have intelligence.
I
then
try to look at them like that, by the way.
Do you?
That's my
Fantastic.
yeah, that's the way I like them.
fantastic. But then it would be fair because prime numbers, which are so important, they are practically all yes, while the things. Again, the perfect numbers. To repeat the definition. So basically, there are divisors, and if you take all the divisors of a number, including one, but excluding the number itself,
Yes.
and sum all of them, and when you get the number, that's the perfect number.
Yeah. By the way, sorry to interrupt you, but including the number itself, this Euler managed to prove that all even perfect numbers are of the form that Euclid showed us, using that technique as part of his proof. Yeah.
Then again, it's a very very beautiful thing. That kind of reminds us what we were saying during the last theorem or great theorem, which I prefer to call it, of Fermat. Did Euclides prove his suggestion? Probably not. But he made this. Some people have this unbelievable capacity. I would say it's like prophecy in a way.
I agree.
Capacity to state a proposition which nobody can prove for 2000 years or for 350 years or who knows how many years. It needs absolute unbelievable clarity and brilliance.
It's a connection with numbers that is on a different level, and we spoke about it with Fermi. I think it was a great example of it. How did he manage to come up with that conjecture? It's unbelievable, and it was proved to be right. So that's remarkable.
To be honest with you, I kind of, when I think about these things, it for some reason takes me to my trip to southern Egypt quite a few years ago, when we saw the temple which were recently in the 20th century was going to be under Aswan Dam, so it was taken and was transferred to a dry place, so it wouldn't be. And the guide told us that a completely great statue, and it was so calculated that the sun would kind of come to the on a special angle to kind of light the face of the pharaoh only on the day of his birthday, and date of his coronation, whatever when he. But that time was probably 32, 33 centuries ago. How could you calculate? I sometimes think they had some, and well, other examples of these civilizations. They knew something somehow, which looks completely incredible that they could get it, because the society was relatively primitive.
Yes, but the minds were not
The
primitive
minds
at
were
all,
unbelievable.
and they did trust their intuition. We lost a lot of it because we became very skeptical, very rigid in the way we are thinking. We spoke about it in previous podcasts.
Intuition again, intuition from
Yeah.
within, and kind of to throw these things. Maybe this kind of paradoxically development of civilization makes us less intelligent,
It does, yeah.
because everybody remembers the tsunami.
Mhm.
And what I understand, a lot of animals, small animals like insects and big animals, they felt the tsunami coming.
I've heard about it. Yeah.
And we human beings, neither we feel it, nor with our very clever technological things, nor we have great
Became
people,
very desensitized, yeah.
and no criticism of great leaders who kind of people who can see future. Nobody said, guys, you know, this place exactly. So basically something we are very humbling that a little insect or little cat
Yeah.
understand better than our collective spiritual and scientific mind. So like we need to kind of put a little in perspective us, our notion, our kind of seeing ourselves as the owner of the universe or the leader of the universe.
It's a big mistake to think that technology is an indication of a development of a civilization, or that's the only indication or the best indication. Go and read, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking in general. People should read a bit of Archimedes, whatever they can understand from it, Euclid, and they will see how great the minds of the ancient people really were. And they did it with no technology at all. I mean, they had their own technology. Archimedes was an inventor as well, but nothing compared with what we have. We have anything at our disposal, still.
We're very kind of desensitized.
We are
Actually,
very-
last week for some reason I was listening to some talking about something else, and it inspired me to look at the Psalm 51, which many people read very often. I happen to read quite often.
51
51.
perfect numbers, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, 51, and it talks about the completely great thing that you created or create in me clear heart,
Mhm.
left achor, and create the word which
Pure
is
heart,
used there,
yes,
pure
yes,
heart, yes,
yeah.
clear pure heart, and the word which is used there is the word which used in creation of the world, something from nothing,
Mhm.
right? So basically, which shows that the creation of the pure heart, wise heart, or big heart, is a huge thing, right? So the connection with what we were saying about that this wisdom, this is kind of a huge leap forward. It's not going like from something which was created kind of gradually. It's sometimes in all these great people there was kind of the very qualitative jump from not knowing to knowing.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's fantastic. Euler, look, I think it's better for us to finish soon, but I just because we can speak so much about Euler and all the other things, but Euler for me strikes me as such an artist, a man of intuition, courage, explorer, everything. That's what allowed him to gain such great discoveries. His proofs were not perfect, but he managed when he managed to find the sum of the puzzle problem.
Mm-hmm.
His first proof was not that good when it comes to actually not that rigorous, but it was correct. He was a man who was led by his intuition. Not just he had great knowledge, great mind, original, fearless, fantastic.
And that's what's interesting to finish. That very nice when you mentioned the Euler was an artist. That's kind of the beauty of these things, because we probably need to see mathematics, especially of the people like Euler, the great minds, as as a big artists, as the people like what Michelangelo said, that David was in this piece of stone. He needed to take it out. He saw it in this piece of
Beautiful, yeah.
right. How Mozart was able to come with such melodies. So mathematicians, the great mathematicians, they are of the same caliber of people. They somehow take from somewhere, from ether, and they give us as a humanity some absolutely unbelievable, beautiful things. And how they do it, it's probably as mysterious as how Michelangelo was able or Mozart was able to do things.
I agree with you. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Professor Misha.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
See you
Take care.
soon.
See you soon.